Choice, but why do we have choice? I mean, if for example if I decide to get up at 10 o'clock in the morning instead of 7 o'clock in the morning, where's the economics in it?
Like you made a choice and there's like an opportunity cost and stuff.
Well, we'll look at that later, right? Because this is something that we're going to be exploring. Anything else? What to Nadine? When you hear the word economics, what comes into your mind? What does it come in your mind? Maths? Be a bit of maths in there, but I wouldn't worry too much, right? As long as you your maths is up to about grade 7, you should be all right. But I don't think you're going to discover your mathematical abilities. Yes?
Economics has something to do with money?
Certainly money's involved, but one of the things that can be of interest to us is that even if we didn't have money, and that's happened before in history, right, we could still manage by swapping things with each other. So yes, money's certainly there. We're going to be looking at money in detail and why we need it. Yes, Katrina. Katrina? Karina, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm sorry, Karina.
Scarcity.
Scarcity, that's a very good word. In fact, I'm going to put some of these words down. Right, one of them, 1, 2, because you actually be able to fill in some of the work that I've done. Right, we'll put scarcity in, and that's going to be as number 2. Because that's your vote, Karina. And we had choice, right? Bounty. You brought money. Well, I'm not going to put money as a separate thing, because you're going to discover money is really a facilitator, which means it makes business easy. But we're going to put choice here. Right, 4 is choice. We're going to keep the other things here, which we're going to fill in. Now, let me explain. Economics is to do with one main idea only, which is a piece of bad news. We can't get everything we want. There are lots of things we would like. For example, we'd like to stay at 5-star hotels. We'd like to eat every single day at smart restaurants. Right? We'd like to socialise, some of us might anyway, with film stars. We'd like to be driving Lambos, right? And lots of other things, lots of things that we'd like to do. I don't think you'll find many teachers driving Lambos. I don't think you'll find many people that can have their own private jets. The things that we'd all like, and it's possible that if we actually had the money, we would actually been able to have them. Could the world supply everybody with a very high standard of living?
No.
What do you think, Basil?
No.
A standard of living that you enjoy, that you and I enjoy, could the world supply all 7 billion people with a high standard of living? Think about it. You don't think so? What do you think, Valentine?
The wealth is spread equally, yeah.
Well, yes, good. Right, and that's something we're going to be having a look at, distribution of wealth, because economics is really about the study of the distribution of wealth, and if it was spread equally, you're thinking, would you say that technically everybody could enjoy the same standard of living that you and I are sharing?
Yeah.
You think so. Anybody else? What do you think, William?
Yeah, it's possible.
You think it's possible?
Yeah.
Could you tell me why?
So yeah, if you redistribute resources like properly and effectively, you could theoretically provide everybody.
Good. And that brings us right to the 5th point, which I'm going to be filling in, which is called economic. You're getting it all now, right? This is economic systems. And the system that you were describing is that if we had a system that could redistribute the wealth, then it might mean that we're actually, that standards of living that you and I enjoy, right, are going to be enjoyed by more of the world's population. I mean, I would say that all of us are living at the top 10% by world standards, possibly the top 5%, right, in the sorts of goods and services that we are able to enjoy, right? But an economic system, that's right, might be capable of doing it in such a way that more people can actually enjoy, and the few people that have got obscene amounts of wealth, which they never use anyway, it might be more effectively distributed. We will come back to that. Okay? Let's now look at the 5 things. And the first thing is, right, in economics, what is the economic problem is simple words. We want more. Okay? Whatever we have, we want more. If I'm coming to school on a bicycle, I want a smarter bicycle. Now, if you're coming in by car, you want a smarter car. If you're travelling by plane, and you're going economy class, you want to go business class. If you're going business class, you want to go first class. If you're first class, you want to have your own private jet. Does that all make sense? There's a feeling always of, we're not satisfied, we want more. Therefore, this is called unlimited human wants. Unlimited human wants means that there are 7.5 billion people on the planet who they've all got one thing in common. Doesn't matter where they are. They've got those 3 words, which are, we want more. Okay? You go on 2 vacations a year. Right? You want 5. You've never had a vacation. You're fantasizing about how lovely it would be to have a nice weekend away from everything. You see what I mean? Wherever we are, economists recognise, right, that we live in a world where there is unlimited human wants. Think about that for a moment. Is that something good or is it something bad? That we have unlimited human wants. What would you fancy getting, Bashir? I'm sorry, I said no, sorry.
Yeah, say it again.
What's your big want at the moment? Or don't you have
a
it?
computer.
But a computer?
I already have one, but like a better one.
A better one?
Yeah.
Okay, you want a better computer. Now, let's have a look at you having a better computer. Is there anything bad about that? Well, we know what some people might say. Manage it yourself, manage on your own one.
Yeah.
But what happens if, let's say, Noor wants to get himself a better computer? Do you realise what you're doing? You're creating work for people. When you spend, let's say, 10,000 shekels or 12,000 shekels on the top computer, that in English means, say, it's nearly $3,000, that you're buying top of the range. How many jobs are you creating? How many people are involved in producing that computer? You see what I mean? It's an argument of, you are creating jobs for other people, and when you're spending money, that money is going into many, many pockets. Now, you, Noor, are just one of tens of millions that are after a new computer. But when you add up all the people who are in your position, what they're actually doing is that these unlimited human wants, you may argue, are creating lots and lots of work for other people. Do you understand? So do you now get the first dimension of the economic problem? That we have unlimited human wants. And it doesn't matter where we're standing, it doesn't matter whether we're the butcher, the maker, the baker, the king on his throne, or the carpet tap maker. It does not mean that wherever we are in society, there's always a feeling of, we haven't got enough, we all want more. Unlimited human wants. Are you happy about that point? Let's tick it off. Second one is, and that's the bad news. Are there enough first class seats in the plane for everybody that would like to travel first class? No, sir. No, ma'am. There are not enough seats to go around. So that means that for some things, there's not enough. Wait a second. What is your greatest need? This moment, what is your greatest need? If we suddenly stopped it, you wouldn't be around. What is it? What's your greatest need?
Food.
No. Food I would put as number 4. As number 4. Water I'll put as number 2. What would we put as number 1? Air, thank you. Since when was air for sale? Never. So therefore air is not, right, well, when we're dealing with scarcity, we are dealing with 2 types of goods. We are dealing with free goods, and an example is air. We're all breathing, but there's no shortage of it. And if there's no shortage of it, which means that there's always enough to go around, you don't need an economy to produce it. You get the idea? So therefore, air would be regarded as a free good. What's the next on the list? Water. That's your second biggest need. Is that like that? Is that a free good? Think about it.
Not always.
Not always. What do you think, Lionel? Is water a free good? Pardon? You don't think so? What do you think, Brianna? I disagree. Okay? If you go down to, if you give me a place where there's a river or there's a pond, and you go and help yourself to a glass of water, right? It's not going to upset the economy. You know why? Because water recycles all the time. Okay? It goes through you. There's more than how much water are you going to get through a year? You're going to get through the volume of about 2 medium-sized swimming pools in this country every single year for all your needs. If you go and take 2 medium-sized swimming pools worth of water out of the river, especially in Switzerland, are the Swiss going to miss that water? They won't miss it. In other words, it's arguably a free good. What's the third thing that you need most? No, that's fourth. There's one thing you need more. Pardon? If they take it away from you, it will hurt you more than even if you don't get fed. Yeah?
Warm.
No, that's second. Sleep. Is sleep a free good? Yeah, no one's charging you as long as you don't mind sleeping on the floor, or you're tired enough, or you can find something underneath you. It's a free good. You don't need an economy to produce it. Now let's get to the fourth good. The fourth thing that you need most. Food. Is food a free good? That's the one that trips up, don't you? Food is not a free good, right? Because you need an economy to produce food. Do you understand? So therefore, actually, arguably, we need an economy to produce water, depending where you are, geographically. But we'll say with food, right, that's where a lot of the budget of our family, our spending goes. Did you know, and this is important, very, very important to you, that typically in this part of the world here, 80% of the family budget goes on food. Nearly 3/4 of the money, and more than 3/4 of the money that people spend and the average person goes on food. With you, I'd be surprised if it's more than 10. You see? So food is very important. And the reason that food is, and therefore, you need an economy. That means you need people to produce the food. It doesn't descend from heaven like manna, does it? Water does. Food doesn't. So we call that it belongs to the category of economic goods. If it's economic goods, that means that they are scarce. There's not enough to go round, necessarily. We have to find some mechanism to be able to distribute it. People aren't going to produce food unless they give a reward, unless they're rewarded for it. You don't produce food just for the sake of your own health, do you? You produce it in order to be rewarded, which means that you get money for it, or other compensations. Okay, so do you now get the idea of scarcity, right? Which is firstly, we've got unlimited human wants. Our second thing is that in economics, we are dealing with scarcity, and resources are scarce. So that's the second point that we've dealt with. You're all happy about that? Any questions? Economics is about scarcity. And just to be able to finish this point off, this is very, very important. Are these scarce resources fairly distributed generally? I don't think so. Shall I tell you a little story? You all like to hear stories, so you all like to hear my stories. Right, you heard them in homeroom. Right, so here's a little one. 2 stories some years ago. Right, just to know how unfair people get access to spare goods. Okay, I'll give you an example. Do your parents or anybody at the school ever tell you that you've got to work hard because otherwise you're not going to make a living? Have you heard that one before? You've got to work hard. I can demonstrate, at least in one instance, that it's not true. Some years ago, it was Pesach, right, the Jewish Passover. And if you go to a hotel in Israel, they will always have what is called Passover night service, right? Which is an absolute must on the Jewish calendar, otherwise known as Seder night. It takes about 2 hours to conduct. Now, I've got my connections with various kibbutzim here, and I got a call from a kibbutz down the road, actually Ramat Rachel, saying, "We need somebody to take the service. Right? Will you do it?" I said, "Yeah, well," we negotiated a price. There's well in 4 figures, right? Nice 4-figure price, right? If it took a couple of hours of work, I said, yeah, sure. Enjoyed it. I did it in my usual way, you know, telling stories all the way through so that everybody was involved and leading them to the singing and those sorts of stuff, you know, the sort of stuff that goes on. And I had 2 hours of fun. Met a lot of people that I wouldn't have otherwise met. I'd have done it for nothing between you and me. But I got a nice 4-figure sum for it. When I came in the next day to pick up the cash, do you know what happened? I was talking to a couple of workers. They were repairing a path, using huge boulders, shifting them from A to B. Back-breaking work that would have killed me in half an hour. If I'd been working for them for half an hour, folks, I want to tell you something, I'd have been dead. And yet they were, I asked them what they were being paid. 20 shekel an hour. Now, who was working harder? Me or the path repairers? The stone breakers. Who were working harder? The stone breakers. But were they being paid? Well, they weren't forced into it. No one forced them to do it. But they were people who were prepared to actually work for 20 shekels an hour, right? Which was above the minimum wage in those days, right? Where I was making approximately 100 times as much. Is that right? Do the maths. What's going on? It's not fair, is it? Do you now get the idea that I was getting a huge amount of money and I've got plenty of money to spend at that moment? They were getting almost nothing. Now, is it fair what they were actually getting for their work? Yes or no? It wasn't fair. Who could use the word scarcity to answer the question? Why is it that they're getting more than I am? Why I'm getting more than they are? Yeah?
The amount of people who can do the job that you did is scarce, whereas in their case there's a bunch of others.
Right now, Bill, you're thinking like an economist. The reason I was getting paid so much money is because they were desperate. They couldn't find anybody to do it. But the reason that, so I was in, from that point of view, I was relatively indispensable. That's your trick, you see, you make yourself indispensable. But for the guy that was repairing the path, it was back-breaking labour. But if he goes, there are 1,000 others waiting to take his place. Do you understand? That's a case of scarcity. So your job is that whatever you do, try to make yourself scarce. Right? Because those that are scarce command the high prices. Now we come to the next one. So we've got number 2, limited factors of production. Right. Well, let's go back. Why is it that we can't give everybody a first class, a private jet? Why is it that we can't give everybody a 5-star hotel accommodation? Why can't we do it? Why can't everybody in the world live like me and you? You get the idea? Question, isn't it? It's not fair when you think about it. Can you give me a suggestion? Why can't we all live like me and you? Why, for everyone that's living like me and you, there are 9 people that are nowhere near? And that our lifestyle is only a dream. Any suggestions? Well, what happened if everybody did? Could the world actually produce it under technology? Nice homes for everybody, for 7.5 billion people. Now, let's look at it. The problem is that we have factors of production. And that is, in order to produce something, right, the world is not capable of producing unlimited. And we need 3 things to produce anything. Whether it's this book, whether it's my computer, right, or whether it happens to be the iPhone that you happen to be handling. Do you follow me at this stage? So we have limited factors of production. Let's put this up in red. What are the factors of production? They are 3. And you're going to have to know what these mean. One of them is called land. The second one is called labour. And the third one is called capital. Right? We will talk about these 3. Right? And that's what you need to be able to produce. And I'm going to miss one out. There is a 4th one. I'm going to ask you at the end, what is that for? Let me introduce. to produce anything, whether it is a bus service, right, or whether it is a bottle of beer, right, or whether it's a foreign vacation, right, or whether it's a new car, or whether it's a home, or anything, or whether it's a bicycle, you need to have three things: your land, your labour, and your capital. And all those three things are scarce, right? Limited factors of production. Now let me tell you what each one means. What is land? Land means more than land. It means the buildings as well. Right? If it's definition of land is if it's something that's either land or screwed to the land. So would a motor, if you're a taxi driver, would a motor vehicle be land? Yes or no? No, it's not. It's capital. But is this classroom land? Yeah, because it's screwed to the land. You can't just pick up the classroom and stuff it on the back of a truck easily. So that's land. Right? You need to have, generally speaking, although it's changing, because a lot of services today are done from home, but then your home is part of your land, right? The room that you're working for, you could actually count as part of your land. So conventionally, you need to have land. That's the first thing. That's your first factor. Right? We talk about factors of production, and in economics, in almost every lesson, you will come across the word the factors. And the first thing, you've got to have land. The second thing is that you're either going to produce it yourself, or you're going to get, finish the sentence, you're going to pay somebody else to do it, aren't you? That's labour. Then you're going to have capital, which means it can be your machinery, your computer, money that you put in, money, all those things, right, are capital. Things that are movable, right, things that are not glued to the ground. Why don't we just say things to produce? Because the factors about land are often different when you look at it as the factors about capital. You understand? They follow slightly different rules and regulations in economics, which we're going to be exploring later. So you understand that to be able to produce something, you've got to have your land, which is rooms that you're operating off, your labour, and your capital. You happy about that? Good. So that gets us to the third point. Now we come to the next point. Choice. And this comes to your bit, William. Choice. Now that, because so far we've looked at it from the point of view of the producer, factors of production, let us now go to choice and look at it from the point of view of the, what's the opposite to producer? Consumer. Now, we as people have to make choices. Like, for example, let's say that you've received $100. What are you going to do with $100? You're either going to, you might want to spend it and buy some new clothes, or you might want to take your family out for a meal, or you might want to save it. Let's say that you want, well, let's have a look at your choice. What would you, let's go to, Karina, I'll give you $100. What are you going to do with it?
Probably save it.
And if you were forced to spend it, what would you spend it on?
Probably travel.
Right, you'd like to travel. You'd like to go on a nice big day tour of the country. Okay? Now, if you've chosen to save it, what you have done is, well, ideally you'd like to have both, wouldn't you? You'd like to have extra $100 in your bank account, and you'd also like to have a nice day tour of the country. But you won't get both for $100, will you? So therefore, you're going to have to make a choice. And the less money we have, the more choosing we have to do as to how we spend it. Do you get the idea? So if you, Karina, have decided that you want to save the money, what have you just missed? Well, don't use the word yet. What have you just missed?
The travel.
Travel. You've missed the opportunity to travel. And therefore, choice involves what's called, you give me the word, thank you, the opportunity cost. You understand? Opportunity cost means the chance of being able, the next best thing that you could have done. Let's give another example, Brianna. $100, what are you going to do with it? Buy food. What are you going to buy?
Oh no, like take my family out to lunch.
Right, you're going to take your family out to lunch. What else would you like to spend your money on? What's your next best choice?
Probably buy myself a new phone.
Right. Okay. If Brianna takes her family out for a nice meal, which is her choice number one, she's not going to be able to have money towards a new phone. Okay? So therefore, her cost of taking the people out, her family out, was $100. But it cost her also the opportunity of being able to put money forward to a new phone. That is her opportunity cost. This idea of opportunity cost comes from scarcity. There's not enough to go around. You've got to make a choice, you've got to give something up. What you have given up is your opportunity cost, your next best choice. And that gets us now to the last bit. Economic systems. So far I've been saying the words, it's not fair. Now let's just finish this point. It's not fair, it's not fair, it's not fair. You've heard that before? Is it true that all our money is based, all our money, I'm just going over the line, all this money is based on what we earned, or is all our money, does the government distribute it? Bit of both, isn't it? It distributes it through taxes. That's something we're going to look at next class. Right, so up to here, we have looked at what is the economic problem? Unlimited human wants. There's not enough to go around.